Hello everybody and welcome to the All About Health podcast. My name is Georgia Overbeck and welcome to today's episode where I have a special guest. This is somebody who, have you ever been on a podcast before?
No.
Welcome.
This is my first time.
I'm so excited. So this is my friend Riley Brennan. We have known each other for, I think we figured out 10 years now.
Yeah.
And we are going to be interviewing her today because she's somebody that I've looked up to for a really long time. You are 6 years older than me, and so I've seen you grow up, you've seen me grow up, and just the way that you've been living in your 20s has been very inspiring and kind of like a way that I want to go into my 20s. I've been 20 for 3 months now, and so I'm still in the beginning stages, and I have so much more to learn and so much life to learn, and so I'm excited to get your perspective on it.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about yourself, like introduce you, what you do, where you're from, all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, we met in Alliston area, New Tech area, through the gym. So I was in high school at the time. And now, I mean, I've done 1,000,000 years of university, and I'm a speech language pathologist. I've been living in Edmonton for a long time, well, 2 years, I guess. And this is the first time we've seen each other in a long time.
Yes.
Like a year.
We were actually saying today that it's really cool that Riley is one of those friends that like you can see each other once a year and it's like no time has passed and it just is so natural and it clicks and I'm so grateful for our friendship and for it being like that. So I'm really excited to interview you today. And
I'm excited and I'm just so happy that someone thinks I'm interesting enough.
I do. And I know that all of you will as well. And
fingers crossed.
I feel like selfishly I wanted to do this episode because I just wanted to get your advice and people are just going to be able to listen to it too.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first question for you, Riley, as we were talking about before, she is 26, so you've been in your 20s for a while now.
I'm an old gal.
You're experienced.
There you go.
And my first question for you is, what is your first memory of being 20? Or like, how did you go into your 20s? What was that like for you?
Going into my 20s, I was just super excited to be in that decade. I feel like it's one of those like little, like you look forward to it as a teenager or whatever. You think you're gonna have so much freedom in your 20s. You're gonna figure everything out. Like things are gonna fall together so seamlessly. And I also feel like I had like an age where I'm like, this is gonna be the best year.
Yeah.
I feel like it was like 24. I'm like, 24 is the coolest age. You're old enough to do all the fun stuff. You have like enough responsibility to be like an adult, but you're also on the low end when you can kind of still be a kid or still be a teenager.
Yeah.
Or maybe like get away with being naive and silly and young and that sort of thing. So I thought that was just going to be like the best year, the best time ever.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't have it wasn't a terrible year.
Yeah.
It was just funny, like going into my 20s, I was like, that's it.
Yeah, I remember like when I was younger in my early teens and stuff, and I was like, oh, when you turn 20, you're an adult. You have your life together. You know everything.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
No, that's not the case. Especially even now, as an old gal, I don't have it together.
And that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
That's what I want to like learn from you.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question for you then, thinking about what you thought your 20s would be like, how did you actually change going from your teens to your 20s?
I think I thought everyone cared a lot more than everyone really does. Like I would get embarrassed about things, or I would overthink things, or I cared a lot about what everyone else thought was cool and maybe everyone else's perception of what I was doing. Like I felt like there were eyes on me all the time. And I've learned that that's not, like, no one cares. No one cares that much what you're doing. No one's watching you that closely. you can mess up, you can do whatever you want, and I mean, like, you can care about the opinions and the perspectives of the people who are close to you, but there's also that, like, there's no wide crazy perception of what you're doing, and I learned to care far less about what people think about me. And I think that's also been like the biggest thing that has changed even just my daily life.
Yeah.
And like you go out into like you go to town and you're never going to see those people again. Yeah. Like you can go and be an absolute fool in the middle of the street and you're never going to see those people again.
Yeah.
So like just have fun.
That's so good. I love that. There's this girl on TikTok I saw. She's kind of doing that in a series. It's where she's just being crazy. So she'll go into the middle of the street and like dance around. Yeah. She's like, nobody cares. Like she's trying to just not be scared of doing that.
Yeah.
And so I love that. That was an amazing answer. My next question for you is, what would you say to your 20-year-old self, 20-year-old Riley?
I think part of the previous answer a little bit is like stop caring so much what other people think, because it really doesn't matter, and also slow down, because I think I spent a lot of time just like rushing through things and always being a little bit too hectic to enjoy some like key moments or time with people, or I was always maybe really focused on academics, and that's never a bad thing, but I tend to get really hyper focused on my projects. Yeah. And then I feel like I lose balance a lot. So I think I would just remind myself to kind of like prioritize other parts of my life as much as I do like the academic part or like the career part. And I think I've learned to do that now. And I think that's why I can enjoy my life a lot more and still have success. Like I have all my achievements I would still have if I slowed down a little bit.
So good.
Yeah.
You're amazing. Perfect. Okay, so the next question, kind of similar to the last one, is what advice do you have for someone else who is entering their 20s? What advice do you have for me, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Throw your plan away.
Oh. Yes.
Because my personality is to like plan, and I'm very type A, but especially over time and maybe the last few years with COVID and things changing a lot and having to evolve with the world and just the ebbs and flows of life, I've learned to just let go a lot more, and it is the hardest thing that I've had to unlearn to do, but I don't have to plan every moment.
This is hitting my soul.
I know. Like, don't just throw the plan away. Follow your gut always. Follow your heart like a little bit, but mostly listen to your gut, because your gut tells you the good stuff. And yeah, or at least you can have a loose plan and learn to be flexible.
So good.
Because that's where all the fun extra stuff comes in, and that kind of ties into creating balance too. Like plan some stuff and then fly by the seat of your pants for the rest of it.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. Okay, so my next question for you, when you're entering your 20s, you definitely start being more independent, whether you are moving out or you're going to school or getting a new job or whatever it is. So my question for you, the next one, is how do you get the confidence to start being more independent and actually taking action on that?
Okay. Oh man. Fake it until you make it. I kind of just say yes to things and take it on and figure it out as I go, which sounds terrifying. Like, it just sounds like it'll never work. But I think for a little bit, it was kind of just running on maybe fake confidence until I was like, okay, you actually, like, you're a smart person. You can navigate the world around you. Things are hard, life is hard, but like also you're okay. Like you have a good head on your shoulders and you can figure things out. So I think for a little bit it was like, yeah, just pretending, and then realizing, oh yeah, no, you're fine. And
I guess it is true. Like even I talk about it on the podcast that you have to build confidence.
Yeah.
Like it's not just something that one day you're like, yeah, I'm confident now.
Yeah, exactly. And my favorite, I guess like mantra that I live by for lots of things, most of my areas of my life is like, if you can't beat fear, then do it scared.
I like that.
Just do it, and then figure it out as you go. Nothing has to be perfect or pretty or like wrapped in a bow. There's no like handbook or rule book really for life or any of the challenges, especially as someone who's like coming into their 20s, and that's a big transition time. Yeah, just do it scared and figure it out as you go, and don't be so hard on yourself if you mess up, because usually you have good people around you who will
support you.
Yeah, you can
like
lean on. Yeah. Yes.
Love it. My next question for you is, what have you learned from traveling on your own, or like just not traveling with your family or with people that are the closest to you?
It's definitely an intimidating thing to do, but it's like probably the most rewarding thing I've done. So it was 2016, 2017, maybe 2018 that I decided to do an exchange in Europe. So I lived over there for 5 months, and I didn't know anybody. Like I just went and figured it out, but
and you went everywhere. I remember seeing your Instagram, and you were like all over Europe. It was so cool.
I was never in school. I
was like, wow, she's in a new place again.
It was really bad. I was a really poor academic student at the time, but I was studying life.
Yeah.
So it all works out. Yeah. I learned a lot about different cultures. And I think it was also a case of kind of just doing something scared, like not necessarily that I felt scared, but I thrust myself into a position where like I didn't know anyone. I had never been to these countries. Sometimes I didn't speak the language of the country that I was in. And I mean, I wasn't always totally on my own. Like I did make friends over there, but I put myself in a position where I didn't have any familiar comforts, so that I could, I think, just build that confidence of, like the faking it a little bit, like until you realize like, oh no, this is something I can do. And it was really rewarding to know that I could navigate some really just any challenge that comes with traveling, and it gave me good experience in really planning things and
being responsible.
Yeah, being responsible, because you gotta, like, no one is over there to hold your hand.
Yeah.
And you can, like, obviously you can call your parents or your friends or whatever and be like, what would you do if you were in this situation? But, like, no one's gonna come and pick you up if you're stranded somewhere.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes you get stranded places and it's out of your control. So that was another thing that I was confronted with a lot, was learning to be comfortable in places where I don't have any control. Like I would get affected by like a train strike and I wouldn't be able to get home from like the southern part of the country. So there was a night where I definitely slept on a bench in a train station, which sounds, I think it's one of my coolest stories that I have. But yeah, it was just, and I mean, that's a very extreme case of being affected by things that you have no control over, but something like that really teaches you that like you can figure it out.
So I have another question for you.
Yeah.
This is going off the last one.
Yeah.
Do you think like it's better to go for a longer trip like 5 months, or do you think it's better to do like something closer to home for like a weekend? Like, do you think it's better to build up or just go head first into something longer and more scary out of your comfort zone?
Yeah. I think it depends on the person a little bit. I like to just go head first into most things and I'd like say yes and figure it out as you go. But I mean, if that's real, like 5 months is a long time.
Yeah.
Going across the world is a big thing. That's not just like it's no small feat for sure. So I think it depends on your overall confidence to begin with, like, or your comfort with that sort of change. Because I mean, I felt uncomfortable, but I wasn't overwhelmed. And for some people, a weekend trip that's a big thing for them.
Yeah.
And lots of people really cling to routine, I think, because it's a big comfort.
Yeah.
So
putting my hands up.
Yeah. So a weekend trip might feel like,
yeah,
you know, I think that's a great first step. To even just, or like you go with a friend and you plan a weekend and that sort of thing. Or like you go and visit a friend or stay with a friend somewhere that you haven't been. Then you have someone familiar and you have a little bit of like a safety net almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's for everyone to go and do like a massive trip alone, for sure. And now that I think about it too, the first time I actually left the country, I was on a school trip and I went to Italy, and I went with a bunch of other students, but my best friend at the time came with me. Okay. So we kind of got to have like a little taste of that freedom and travel and be a little silly and goofy everywhere. And yeah, like that felt unfamiliar but manageable.
I like that.
I hope I answered that okay.
No, that was great. Okay, my next question for you. So obviously you've done so much being in your 20s. You've been in relationships, you've been single, you've traveled, you've went through school, you got your dog. But what are some things that you still want to do? Like, what's on your bucket list for the rest of your 20s?
For the rest of I got 4 good years left. Or I guess 3. Right?
We'll say 4.
Yeah, we'll say, okay, yeah, 4.
Round up.
Yeah, we'll round up for sure. I think I'll be in my 20s forever. You're only as young as you
It's a mindset.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure. I have a lot more traveling, for sure. I think that's most of my bucket list is just comprised of different locations that I want to visit, or like lots of hikes that I want to do for sure. I want to head back to Europe in the next few years, definitely. It's been a long time, and then not being able to travel for a few years really made me feel a little bit stir crazy and restless, and now I'm like, I don't want to wait any longer. I don't want to put it off. So yeah, I want to go back to Europe. I want to do some big hikes out there in like Switzerland and France and Spain and some of those really beautiful countries. And what else? We were talking earlier about I want to run another marathon. I think.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole podcast episode about Riley and her running and fitness, because you've run a marathon, you've done so many half marathons. You're just a runner, you are. So we're going to do a podcast about that too, but that's for the next one. So stay tuned for that.
Yes. Yeah, I think I want to do another marathon. I would say travel is the main thing on there. There are lots of great places in the States and in Canada too that I still haven't seen. I haven't been anywhere east of Ontario. Well, no, I guess east of Quebec. I haven't been. So I have family out on that side of the country, so I want to make my way out there. I definitely want to cover all of Canada.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think I should be able to accomplish that in the next few years, because I'm always
traveling.
I'm always all over Canada anyway.
Like,
as
okay,
it is.
where have you been just in the last 6 months?
Oh, okay. The last 6 months. I was in Ontario, Alberta, BC. I was just in Washington. I was up in the Northwest Territories. The last 6 months would take us to the beginning of the year. I think that might be it.
Just a few places.
I think so.
That's so cool.
I feel like I'm missing some, but
We'll have to refer back to the stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, my next question for you is, when did you have that, like, aha moment of, I'm an adult now? Because I feel like when you're you're a teenager, you're like, oh, as soon as you're 20, you're like, yeah, I'm an adult. But 24. What was that for you?
24, I thought I'd be an adult.
Yes, 24. Perfect.
I don't even know if I've really had it yet. I mean, I still don't really see myself as an adult in a way. Like, even when sometimes I'll be at work and we have some like standardized tests and questionnaires and that sort of thing that you administer to people who've had a stroke. And there's one that's like, am I a kid? And the answer technically like is no, because I'm not a kid.
Yeah.
So the person who's responding is supposed to say no, but I never know. I'm like, yeah, I am though.
Yeah.
And especially when you're sitting in front of someone who's like 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever, the answer to me is still yes.
Yeah.
So there's like moments like that where I'm like, I'm not an adult. That's dumb. This isn't real. But I don't know. You get lots of responsibility, and then there's people around you who, especially like, I feel like now everybody I know is getting married and having kids, or like buying houses and doing big like adult moves. And maybe that's part of why I don't feel like an adult in a way, because I don't have those like big ticket adult items happening for me right now. Those are not in my bingo card this year or anytime soon, really, I feel. But
I think almost we all have this idea in our mind of what an adult is and like what you have to do to be an adult.
Yeah.
And like for me, I look at you and I'm like, yeah, you're an adult. Yeah. Like you have this job, you've gone through school, you have a dog. Like to me, I'm like, yeah, she is totally an adult. But I think that we all have that different thing in our mind. Like when I, like for somebody it could be like, when I have a child, I'm an adult. Or like when I get married or get engaged or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I think that even if everyone else in the world looks at us like we're an adult, to us, we might not be.
I'm just a really mature teenager.
Yeah. I'm a mature 12-year-old.
Yes, I always say I'm like 12.
I know. I'm stuck at 12. Okay, the next question. Another big thing about being in your 20s is your friendship and friends and like having people in your life. And so what friendship advice do you have, or what have you learned the most about friendship in general in your 20s?
Be really, really careful about who you surround yourself with. And I think that you can really tell. You can tell a lot about your friendships, I think, by the way that you feel in the moment while you're spending time with somebody, but also afterwards. Like I had a really good friend. We'd been friends for a long time, but I started to really pay attention to the fact that after we spoke or saw each other, I always kind of felt like I was being judged, or like they didn't agree with some of the big decisions in my life, or didn't support me in some of the ways that I felt about things that I was going through. And and that sort of thing. And I mean, like, that being said, you don't have to always agree with someone. And to each their own, absolutely. You can be a great friend and still be like, I don't think you're making a good decision. But if that's all you get from a friendship, it makes you feel like you can be less yourself around that person.
Yeah.
And that's not worth... That's just bad for everybody involved, right? It's just a waste of everybody's time.
Like if you're never having a good time, or if you're never seeing eye to eye.
Yeah, or if you're going through something and you don't feel like you can talk about it with that person, and it's something huge for you. Like everybody's going through stuff, and everyone has their own experience in life and anything. But yeah, if you don't feel like you have someone that you can really honestly and openly be yourself with and speak to about things, or even just if you are acting different around someone, like I really only surround myself with people now who I can be completely 100% myself with, and who I know will put me in my place and be like, you're not right, or this is a bad decision, or like we think that you like are, I don't know, being dumb about something, or like you messed up. Like, that's another important thing too. You should have people in your life who are going to call you out on stuff, because they keep you accountable for your decisions and your actions and everything like that. But yeah, I only surround myself with people who are like, I can be myself with, and then I know that I'm getting like good love back, because I'm putting out love to all my people, and then I'm like, they know who I am, and they see me for just me, and there's no ulterior motive of like making a judgment, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have a conversation with my friend and then feel like
they're gonna tell somebody else.
Yeah.
Or something. Sorry about that. We do not know what just happened, but so I have our iPod sitting here that we use for our fit dance. Like, it has all of our dances and songs on it, and for some reason it just started playing a song randomly.
Yeah, the universe just sent us a sign.
I've never heard the song before. It's not downloaded. Nobody is here to touch the iPod. It's called Brother Louie by the
Modern Talking.
Modern Talking.
Yeah.
So if that means anything to you, maybe it's for somebody who's listening.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to sort through the lyrics and see how it applies to.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just the universe being like, "Okay, you've talked for a long time.
We know enough.
Wrap it up."
Wow, that was interesting. I don't even know where to go from there.
Yeah. That was cool.
Okay, the next question that I have for you is that on your Instagram stories, you share a lot of information about different causes and organizations and like just different topics that you believe in and you feel strongly about. And I know that not everybody is confident enough to speak up about that or to share it on their Instagram stories, even when they want to.
Yeah.
And so my question for you is, how did you start like posting these things, and like how did you find your passion for them and that you wanted to share about them?
I think that started a lot in university, and I think it was brought out a lot by being surrounded by some like-minded people who were the same. So and I have friends who like, we always have a lot of conversations about things that are happening in the world and things that we really strongly believe in and support. So I feel like I've always been talking about these sorts of things, but posting about them until probably my university years. And I feel like I kind of didn't as much, because it's not that I didn't care, but I don't think I realized before how close some of these things are to home. Like I just started becoming aware of like a lot of things that applied to me, maybe specifically as a woman too. That was kind of like maybe one of the first sort of like isms that I got into, was like doing lots of research on feminism. And in university I took courses on feminism and gender studies and all that sort of stuff. So I think it was around that time that I started being a lot more vocal about that. Just as I think I grew up and it became part of my studies, and I was able to really hone in on that interest a lot. Because I mean, growing up in a small conservative farm town, you don't necessarily have access to a lot of...
You're not taught that.
No, you're not. And it's not right that you're not taught, you know, real things like history and that sort of thing. So yeah, having access to actual information was a big thing. Social media too was a big part of it. And having access to facts and stuff like that. So I think it was all kind of around that time that lots of people started to be a lot more vocal about things like that. So I learned a lot. I still am always researching things. I love science and I love information and that sort of thing. And I started sharing things, and I mean, it's not always taken nicely by people who don't agree. And I dated someone a long time ago who also was like, why do you have to be so political all the time? Or like, why do you have to always talk about, I don't know, whatever cause or whatever issue? And I remember him being like, it was something that was going on in the States quite a number of years ago, maybe 5 years ago or so. And he was like, yeah, but it doesn't affect you. And I was like, that is such a privileged thing to say. Because it does. It does affect me. It was a women's rights, healthcare and abortion issue. And he was like, yeah, but it doesn't affect you. Like, it's like, you can still access this service. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm a woman. Yeah. I identify as a woman, and that is a service that, like, I'm still being attacked. Yeah. like those are other women. They might not be Canadian women or women who I know personally, but, like, they're having a right taken away from them. Thereby I'm having a right taken away from me. And, like, I don't want someone to have their rights taken away from them, whether it's that sort of issue or anything else. Like, it's, you know, everyone has human rights, and that's, so it does affect us. It affects me, it affects him, you know, that's something that, like, I'm still learning a lot that for myself about what I can actually do and what I feel strongly about. And I think that that's just the biggest thing, is to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Like, if something is happening, like, how would you feel if that was you? Because they probably can't do a lot, because they're the ones that are actually getting the majority of the hate, and they're getting the majority of the news, and people are talking about them. And so I think it shows too, when other people that are not in that situation, when they stand up and start talking about something, it shows that it's actually not just them. Like, other people are taking a stand, and they believe in this too. And so that's something I'm still figuring out for myself as well. But I really appreciate that you do that, and I think it's really cool. Yeah, and there's strength in numbers. You know, the more voices, then the louder it is. And, like, to just stand in solidarity with someone is such a huge act in itself. And then lots of these issues too need the visibility. So if I have a platform, whether it be, like Instagram, whether it be a podcast, anything like that, I want to use it to, like, magnify and give a spotlight to those things that are important. Yeah, I love that. That's good. And my last question for you today on this episode is, how would you describe your 20s, like your experience of being in your 20s overall so far? I think they've been pretty rad.
I like that.
Yeah, I've had a good time. I'm still having a good time. I'm just kind of doing whatever feels right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also a super important thing to do, whether you're in your 20s or like whatever age, you know, you kind of have to follow what feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a big emphasis of my last few years, I would say, is just whatever feels right to me and wherever I get the good energy from, that is the only thing that I want to follow, you know? Otherwise, I'm just...
Would you say that the majority of the time you don't know why it feels good? Like it's like, I just have this feeling that I need to do something? Or do you have like a reason it'll actually like work out for you or you need to do it?
Mm-hmm. I think it depends on the area of my life where I'm trying to make a decision or that sort of thing. There's definitely times where I'm like, I don't know why this feels like the right thing to do. I'm just going to do it. This is like what my gut is telling me to do. And I'm a big believer of following your gut and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it depends on the situation. Some are super clear cut of like, maybe you have two options, like which feels better or which, you know, there can be some calculation involved for sure. And that's not a bad thing at all. But yeah, there are other times for sure where I feel like I'm rambling.
No, you're good.
Where I don't know why, or I can't explain it. But that's the other thing too. Like if something feels good to you, you don't have to explain it to other people. And like you don't.
I love that.
Yeah, you don't have to, or you don't have to give reasons why or anything.
Worry
like that.
about it?
Or worry about it. Yeah, because who cares? It's your life.
Yeah.
Like.
So true.
You're the one who's stuck with you, right? So do whatever you want.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to end off this episode here. Thank you so much for being on, Riley.
Thank you.
Learned so much. I'm going to have to listen to this again and take notes. I hope that if you are also in your early 20s or maybe your late teens, then you can really listen to a lot of these things. And even if you're not, if you're older, if you're younger, no matter what stage of life you're in, I feel like you can learn something from this or even get some just really good reminders. So I'm going to leave Riley's social media, her Instagram, link down below. So if you want to check her out, then you can and get connected. And she's always traveling, so maybe you can meet up somewhere.
Yes.
She's very nice. I trust her. Thank you so much for listening or for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one.